How long does extra-provincial registration last? Once a US company gets comfortable with the idea of extra-provincial registration, the next logical question is how long that status actually lasts. Is it something you do once and forget, or is it more like a subscription that has to be maintained as long as you keep doing business in that province? The simple answer is that extra-provincial registration is meant to last as long as you are carrying on business in that province, but it does not maintain itself. You keep it alive by filing required updates, paying maintenance fees, and not letting lapses turn into cancellations. The good news is that the law does not force you to re-register from scratch every year unless you let things fall apart. The bad news is that if you assume silence means everything is fine, the registry can quietly move you into bad standing and eventually drop you from its books. Extra-provincial status as an ongoing authority. When you register a foreign corporation extra-provincially, you are effectively asking the province for permission to carry on business there under your existing legal form. The province examines your application, records your details, and issues a number or certificate recognizing you. That authority does not come with a fixed expiry date like a one-year license. It is intended to stay in place until you either withdraw voluntarily or the province cancels it for non-compliance. From the province's perspective, though, the registration is only useful if the information remains current. Directors change, addresses move, and corporate names are amended or merged. To prevent the registry from turning into a museum of outdated entries, provinces use annual returns, periodic maintenance requirements, and the threat of cancellation as nudges to keep records fresh. Annual returns and maintenance filings. In practice, most provinces require some kind of annual corporate return for both domestic corporations and extra-provincially registered foreign companies. The return usually confirms that the corporation is still active and lists the current registered office, directors, and sometimes other details. Filing that return and paying the associated fee is what keeps your extra-provincial registration alive in a normal year. If you consistently file on time, your extra-provincial status simply rolls forward year after year. You do not renew in the sense of going through the whole application again. You just prove you are still there and still the same legal person. If you skip filings, the registry has the tools to shift your status to not in good standing and eventually to cancel your registration entirely. Consequences of letting registration lapse. If an extra-provincial registration is cancelled because of chronic non-filing, the province treats you as no longer authorized to carry on business there. That does not erase history. It does not undo contracts or magically wipe away tax exposure. It simply means you are off the official list of companies allowed to operate. This can hit at awkward times. You may discover the lapse when a bank, landlord, or major customer asks for proof of good standing and the search shows your registration was cancelled. In some provinces, an unregistered foreign corporation can be blocked from starting lawsuits until it regularizes its status. If you decide to restart operations later, you may have to go through a full re-registration, pay past due fees, or even apply for reinstatement through a more involved process. How business changes affect duration. Extra-provincial registration lasts as long as you actively want it and meet obligations, but it is also tied to whether you are still carrying on business in that province. If you genuinely exit the province, you do not have to keep the registration alive forever. You can file a formal withdrawal or cancellation notice showing that you have wrapped up operations and no longer need authority to operate. On the other hand, if your activity shrinks but does not disappear, the safer assumption is that the registration should remain in place. Occasional projects, long-term warranty work, or ongoing contracts can still count as carrying on business. Treat deregistration as the last step of a clear exit, not as an automatic reaction to a temporary slowdown. The role of corporate changes. Your extra-provincial status is tied to the underlying corporation. If you merge, change your name, or convert the entity at home, you need to tell each province where you are registered. Those notifications do not restart the clock on registration, but they are part of keeping it valid. If you forget to update extra-provincial registries after a major corporate change, you can end up in a world where official records show an entity that no longer matches your current legal form. That disconnect is more than cosmetic. It can cause problems when you try to enforce contracts, open bank accounts, or sign with government customers who check corporate records carefully. Planning around the forever nature of registration. For US owners, the main takeaway is that extra-provincial registration is not a one-off project. Once you add a province, you are committing to maintaining that registration for as long as you want to do real business there. That commitment is not huge in dollar terms, but it is real in terms of process. The more provinces you stack up, the more you need a simple, centralized way of tracking which registrations exist, what returns they require, and when those filings are due. Final thoughts. Extra-provincial registration lasts as long as you keep up your side of the deal, filing annual returns, paying fees, updating information, and either staying active in the province or formally withdrawing when you leave. It is not designed to expire automatically every year, but it is also not something you can forget about without consequences. If you are planning a multi-province expansion, it helps to think of extra-provincial registrations as long-lived commitments and to build them into your compliance calendar from day one. For simple templates that help track where you are registered and what each province expects each year, you can visit www.theaccountingandtax.com. If you require assistance with Canadian tax matters, our team is ready to provide reliable professional support. Please contact us at 416-283-8774 or visit theaccountingandtax.com for more information. And if you found this video helpful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share.